Does thinking positive really matter? I've come to believe, to even know, that it does matter, but not for the reasons that might seem obvious. It's a trend now, has been for quite a time, that we should watch our thoughts and pay attention to them. And although that can be a good idea to pay attention to where our thoughts are headed, particularly if they're headed in a direction that isn't helpful, but there's more to it than just paying attention to our thoughts. There's a completely different aspect about thinking positive that I've picked up on in my life, and it's been a great help to me lately. So I share this with you so it can help you too. So this is what's really neat. Do you ever have anxiety? I don't know, is that the question of the century? Who doesn't have anxiety, especially after the past couple of years, and there's just so much going on in the world even now. But this is where positive thinking has had such a profound effect on my life lately. It is relative to my level of anxiety. And I will even say, as bold as this may sound, that when I'm able to keep my thinking going in a positive direction, I actually do not have anxiety. This isn't woo-woo or pep rally talk. I promise you it isn't. If you've experienced anxiety, as I have, the feeling of being anxious or panicked is so intense, seemingly insurmountable, that I would never make light of what could potentially resolve that anxiety and panic. So this is what I've noticed. Whenever I feel anxiety or panic, if I just stop and ask myself a question, internally or out loud, and the question is, what was I just thinking? So I'm feeling anxious, panicked, and I stop and I ask myself, what were you thinking? And sometimes it takes a moment for us to figure out our thoughts because we have so many so rapidly. But if you go back even just 1, 2, or 3 thoughts, you'll realize that you were thinking something that was just powerfully damaging, very unkind, or in some way just not a helpful thought. When we ask ourselves, what was I just thinking? And we realize that the thoughts we were having were destructive, the anxiety and panic starts to subside, because the anxiety and panic is actually the thoughts themselves and the untrue feelings that they bring up, because the anxiety and the panic is being directly caused by my thoughts. So herein lies the answer. Once you know that your thoughts were drifting and they were going to places that are not good for you in any way, and therefore you realize that any panic or anxiety that you're feeling is a result of those thoughts, the replacement thoughts of being positive is what's really the game changer in all of this. This is where thinking positive really does matter, because if you get in a pattern of catching the thoughts that are unkind and replacing them with kind thoughts, you're going to start feeling better more often. And even after just a few days of doing this, noticing when you have panic and anxiety, taking a moment to question what your thoughts were preceding the panic and anxiety, and then replacing those thoughts with good thoughts. And if possible, if you can say something positive out loud, that is even more powerful, I've found. So, what would this look like? The other day, I was doing my laundry, and I was fine. You know how that is when you're just fine, and then all of a sudden, you're not. So I put my laundry down, paused, and said to myself, what was I just thinking? And none of the thoughts were good. So of course I felt panic and anxiety. And then I decided to say some positive words out loud. And what I did, it really does seem miraculous, but that anxious feeling, the overwhelmed feeling, the negative feelings, they just completely float away. In case this sounds a little too simplistic or even woo-woo, I do want to let you know that I have a degree in mental health counseling, so I know a bit about how all of this works. We overall have underrated the power of thought, and not in the way that is esoteric or even based on quantum physics. We have underestimated the power of our thoughts because our thoughts make us feel a certain way. And when feelings arise and they're overwhelming, we just don't know what to do. So, my sweet and beautiful friends, my hope is that you would be willing to take the time to notice what your thoughts are, to pause, to replace them with kinder, more loving thoughts. And in and of themselves, kinder and loving thoughts are always the right choice. But even more so when it comes to panic and anxiety, when we take the fuel away that's feeding the panic and anxiety. That is, when we're willing to stop thinking negative thoughts. In that, you'll find the freedom that I have found. It is a practice. It might take a little bit of time, a few days, but if you'll just allow yourself to try this in your life, I really do believe it will help you to feel tremendously better. How you feel throughout your days and nights really does matter. It matters because you are a precious soul and you have the right to be happy, to be at peace, to be fulfilled. Do positive thoughts really matter? They do, my friend. They do. And I know that once you embrace this little simple practice, allowing the negative thoughts to go, realizing they are the cause of the panic and anxiety, and replacing those thoughts with something that is worthy of all the beauty that you are. Remember, you are not alone on this life journey. I'm here to help. God is always here to help. And we can live peacefully day by day with thoughts that are worthy of floating through our precious minds. Thanks for listening again.